Kicker Performance Audio. For almost 50 years, we've been rocking the planet with our world-class product covering everything that drives you, whether in your car, truck, boat, motorcycle, side-by-side, or even on your head. Kicker Performance Audio's passion for bringing you your favorite music like you've never heard it before is what drives us. So wherever you need us, Kicker Performance Audio will be there for you.
Some hands on hands on the wheel, got a sexy touch. It's enough to make me and my Chevy blush. So long, take it all off with that highway. Turn me on, I'll let you drive, babe. You can take it fast as you want to. Little dirty looks damn good on. You start me up, Stones on the radio. Girl, I love it when you let go. Long way, short way, in the wrong way. Get out of 4x4 play.
This is great, guys.
We're back again with another Outlaw Armageddon. I'm Big Rob.
Daddy Dave.
I'm Big Mark. Enlighten us a little bit on how you got the name Daddy Dave.
Because back when I raced your car or Wayne's car or anybody else's car, I would beat a lot of people. So, and back then, what was that, 20-some years ago?
Yeah.
It was the big thing of who's your daddy. So Big Chief just automatically said, you're everyone's daddy. So there you go.
I do remember a time that you did beat Chief in my car.
I beat Chief a lot of times in a lot of cars.
Have you ever beat me?
I don't think I've ever raced you.
That's
like
because
something needs to happen.
Well, some people.
Yeah. I mean, anytime.
Well, some
You need to
people
finish
are
that
scared.
S10. Let's make it happen. I said finish the S10.
No, you said you make something happen, need to race you.
Well, hold on. I sense that there could possibly be a Who's Your Daddy race.
How'd you get to Oklahoma?
I was born in Longmont, Colorado. And that's, New York's here, Colorado's here, and Oklahoma's kind of in between them. I was actually headed back to Colorado. So I loaded up my toolbox, the clothes I owned, and my dog in a 1980 Monte Carlo. And I was headed for Colorado, and I ran out of money right in Oklahoma City.
But how do you run out of money on a road trip from point A to point B?
Young and dumb, like I thought I could make it.
That's when I met you. It's when you got down here. And your story, which led you to Oklahoma running out of money, has led you to where you are now in life. So I'm thankful that you ran out of money.
It all happens for a reason.
And that was where I was able to meet you. And we literally, between your guts and my mouth, we became instant friends. I think I ran my mouth and you backed up me talking crap,
So you ran your mouth and he had to back it up.
Yes.
Yes.
We still do that.
At that moment in my life, how I got my name Big Mark is I was a much bigger fella, and I still got a big mouth. I was racing, but it was unsafe for me to race, so Dave stepped in and helped me where I could still run my mouth state to state, and we were, it really wasn't anything about the money. We were having fun, and he was operating and making my dream come true, and at the same time, he was having his dream come true and building a dream where, he was getting his name also, and it worked out for both of us,
Why am I sitting here with you fine gentlemen on Mark's birthday? How old are you, Mr. Mark Swenson?
I am 44 wonderful years old today.
But how old are you, Dave?
Don't try to make it about me.
Hey, I'll call you daddy as old as you are.
Why are we here today?
Talk about Outlaw Armageddon.
I'm going to call you Dave.
Just call me Dave. It's just straight Dave.
I live loud.
You do?
I live life to the fullest, but I'm also living my life loud. So we're here with some family today, and we wanted to talk about
Outlaw Armageddon number 5.
When is it?
August 2nd and 3rd.
Where is it?
It's in Noble, Oklahoma, in the 405. There's 96 big tire. There's 96 small tire. There's 96 True Street.
That's going to be a big cruise.
Yeah, we have the largest payouts in the country, bottom line. You are now taking part in your hometown party that's getting ready to go on. And one of the sponsors that we have for the event is yours truly, Daddy Dave.
I own a company, DDR Concepts.
What is DDR Concepts?
DDR Concept, 2 locations of Seth Wadley, and we do the F-150 and Mustangs. Wheels, suspension, make them way faster than they should be. We do the Pro Chargers, set up on them, same thing, suspension, wheels, exhaust, tune them all. The truck will come to my shop. We'll do the conversion on it, tune it, do everything, put a safe tune in it so somebody can go out and have fun with it, not blow it up, and not be a big money pit was the whole theory behind the thing.
That's awesome. Outlaw Armageddon. I've been to a lot of racetracks throughout the United States, and Outlaw Armageddon is originally based in the 405, which started the Street Outlaws. It is in their hometown, their home track, where they literally spent their whole lives testing, bracket racing, class racing, testing, whatever they were doing, going out there watching just an event on Friday night or Saturday night. This is their home. It is in their backyard. It was something to do on the weekend while they were waiting on parts to come in or whatever the case was, you know.
When's the dates again? August what?
It's August 2nd and 3rd.
Noble, Oklahoma, Outlaw Armageddon, 5.
Number 5.
Big show,
Big deal.
big deal,
Big payouts.
festival.
Big festival.
And
It's not a race, it's a festival.
And the best motto for Outlaw Armageddon is often imitated, never duplicated.
Yeah.
See you there. Living loud.
The key technology system comes with a microphone that listens to the speakers in your vehicle. It analyzes each speaker independently, tunes it by providing crossover points, equalization, time delay, and really dials it in and drastically improves the sound quality of your factory stereo system or even aftermarket stereo system. This is a one-time setting. You don't need to leave the microphone in the car, but you do have a button that's integrated into the microphone cable. You can leave that installed, and that gives you a demo switch so that you can go back to your old factory sound and listen to how dreadful it sounded before, and then hit the button again and go back to the Key 180.4 technology. It's got a small footprint, and it's got great thermal management, so you can stuff this thing anywhere and you don't have to worry about the amplifier overheating. You do not have to be an audiophile to install this or appreciate it. This is actually great for the DIY guy because it does everything that the audiophile wants for them with the push of a button. It's an awesome little piece, and it's automatic. You know, nobody's got anything like this built into an amplifier.
everybody, it's Tuesday night, 7:30, right here on the Kicker YouTube and Facebook channel, coming to you live from the UnMasked studios right here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I don't know what you guys thought about that last video that Ernie just put up there, but I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more patriotic, or is it a lot more like a pyro? I don't know. Hey, it's all kind of fun. But yeah, we got a great show tonight. We're going to have some fun, and we've got not one, not two, but three guests. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But once again, I want to welcome you guys to the show. We've got Tim back behind the camera running just like usual, and way in the back behind me, we got Bill Frog, we got Jeremy, and we got Ernie, all running the console. So say hello, guys. There they are. It kind of looks like the same as we had last week. Yep, got the great crew. And I appreciate you guys sticking with us with that little bit of technical difficulty. Hey, it's live. Those things are going to happen. We never know exactly what's going to go on. But once again, welcome to the show. Tuesday night, 7:30, Facebook, YouTube. We're right here. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Invite your friends. Like I say, let us know you like it. And if you got any suggestions for the show, send them in the feed. As also, like we talk about every week, we've got the live feed up. I'm able to see your questions and comments. So if anything cool pops up, JW's going to bring it up on the screen for us. So feel free to post your questions, comments, anything else you feel the rest of the Kicker group wants to hear, and we'll see it, we'll read it, and you never know, we might just act on it. As usual, we got to thank Steve and Becky for letting us get together for dinner. It's always nice with your friends to get together for dinner. And I'm kind of wondering now, this is the third of 4 weeks, right, Jeremy? Third of 4 weeks that we've had Texas Roadhouse. So there's either a really cute girl working there, or he owes them money and is trying to work it off. I'm not sure which it is, but hey, Texas Roadhouse is always good. Who's going to pass down a good steak? Definitely not me. So don't forget, if you guys have not registered for the MechMan contest, we're going to give away that MechMan 400 amp 24 karat gold plated alternator. That's right, 24 karat gold plated, not just Krylon spray on gold. It is actually gold plated. And even if it doesn't fit on your vehicle, which it should fit on a lot of the vehicles, I think they're picking a fairly common format to use. But hey, it's going to look nice on your bench or sitting on top of your toolbox, wherever you might want to put it. So make sure you guys get online and register for that MechMan alternator. And also, just like usual, we've got prizes to give away tonight. We're going to do the usual prizes. So, and of course, if you haven't noticed, I've got my notes up here. We got so much going on, I've got to write it all down because I am getting old and I can't remember everything. But to get started off with, we're going to tell you what we're going to win tonight. We have a contest every Tuesday night, and once again, you can register for the contest starting at 7:15, and we start watching the feeds even before that. So even if you post a little bit before the feeds, we're still watching. But you can register for the prizes that we give away weekly starting at 7:15. We're going to close that contest at 7:30. Actually 8:30, sorry about that, and we're going to give the prizes away at 8:45. This daylight saving time, I don't know about you guys, but it's really messing with me. Still haven't got my sleep figured out right. Jeremy, why don't you go ahead and pull up the laptop if you would. So we're going to look at the weekly giveaway prizes for tonight, which is March 15th, halfway through the month of March. So just like usual, it's kind of almost a repeat. I think we need to record this segment, then we can just play it back for later. Third prize is going to get the EB400s. They're the weatherproof earbuds. They're great for hot tubs. They're great for biking, whatever you want to use, jogging. You don't have to worry about getting caught in the rain, get splashed. So you're going to get the EB400 earphones. You're going to get that great t-shirt that's over my shoulder back there, and you're going to get the UnMasked Weekly koozie. Second place is going to get the upgraded headphones. You're going to get the Tabor headphones, which are Bluetooth wireless headphones. These things sound great, and if you don't have to worry about plugging them in to the wall, if they happen to die, you can still plug them in and use them like regular headphones. So you're going to get the Tabors, you're going to get the t-shirt, and you're going to get the koozie. Nice trio of awards there for the second prize winner. And the grand prize, once again, is going to get the Cush NCs. I tell you, I use those almost every single night. I used to tell you I use them every night, but there was one night last week I was just too tired. I didn't even bother listening to music, which is really odd. But the grand prize winner is going to win the Cush NC Bluetooth headphones with noise canceling to block out all those outdoor noises, the t-shirt, and the koozie. So make sure you guys register for that. And like I say, we're going to make sure we keep going to the notes from time to time, make sure we don't forget everything. So make sure you tune in Tuesday nights at 7:30, the Kicker YouTube and Facebook channel. And while we got the laptop pulled up here, let's just start scrolling through a few other cool things going on. Don't forget to check out the Kicker main starting page, the home page. We change that every now and then. You're going to see new products pop up, some really cool things. And as we mentioned before, the L7T downfiring woofers are now shipping, 8, 10, and 12 inch. These are great sounding speakers, a really incredible box. Now, your dealer may not have them yet because we shipped out a small sample and then we ran out, but we've got more coming, and these things are going to be well worth the wait. So if we look at some other things on the website, once again, you've got your tabs for power sports, motorcycles, lifestyle, and we talked about all the gear that we give away, all the t-shirts and all the koozies and stools and anything else odd. You can find all that under gear. That's what we featured a couple weeks ago with Sandy on the show. That was a lot of fun. And of course, our support page. Under the support tech page, you've got test tones, you've got safety warnings, you've got wiring diagrams, and one of my favorite titles here is something that you guys might want to look at. It's kind of the theme of tonight's show. We're going to be talking about some box building. But if you got, actually, are we changing up that we're frozen? Are we still live? Hang on, guys. We're live. All right, we're live. We're live, but apparently my feed is not. But this box building section is a lot of fun. You can learn a lot about building enclosures, and I know we got some great guests on tonight. They're going to talk a lot about building enclosures, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a few things, but this has got a lot of good information on infinite baffle, some examples, what they do and what they don't do. It's got information on sealed enclosures, do's and don'ts. Then you get into ported enclosures. So there's a lot of good information under this box building tech paper and graphs of the responses. And in fact, some really cool diagrams, some different examples, 3-chamber bandpass, which once again, we don't always recommend them, but sometimes those bandpass boxes are the ticket. Maybe that's what you need for SPL. We're going to find out here a little bit later. So that's a great place to tune for some good information. And always, if we go back to the main page, we scroll down to the Kicker Tech page. Now you can see all the tech papers, manuals, software upgrades. So there's a lot of great information. And don't forget to scroll down on that website. So another cool, exciting area to learn what's going on with Kicker and talk about a lot of the fun stuff and see some really cool pictures and installs is the Kicker Facebook page. Something else this page is really good for, if we scroll up here just a little bit, I just scrolled it off the screen. If we click on the More tab, and I got messages popping up left and right. That shows you how focused I am on what I'm looking at. So if we click on the More tab, we'll pull up the events. Guys, I hope you had a chance to see some of the posts about the Master Tech Expo that was held in Mesa, Arizona last weekend. I guess it was absolutely incredible. Kind of disappointed we didn't make it, but you never know. We probably, hopefully, will make the next one. Should be really good, but I know Brian and the guys put on one heck of a good show. There was nothing but positive posts. I mean, it looked like a lot of fun, and I think we'll try to mix it up a little bit next year. But tonight, we've got a lot of cool things we're going to talk about that's going on out in the world. Of course, you got Bass Wars coming up at Innovative Designs. These Bass Wars shows are always popular, always a lot of fun. And if you're anywhere close to where one of these events is happening, you guys really need to get out and see them. If you're into motorcycle racing, and down in Texas, we got the half mile live from the Motor Speedway in Texas. That is a lot of fun. I actually got to participate with a couple of those events with Lauren. Lauren is a great road warrior, and he works all these events. He's tireless. If you happen to get to one of these events, go say hi to Lauren at the Kicker booth because he's working hard, and he loves every minute of it. I mean, we couldn't do it without him. But if you've never seen a Harley-Davidson motorcycle going 140 miles an hour down the backstretch and 95 miles an hour in the corner, this is really a lot of fun. They're great shows. I mean, even if you're not a motorcycle nut, it's just good and exciting fun for all. Don't forget about all the contests coming up. We got Cars and Coffee coming up here in Stillwater. So if you happen to be in the Stillwater, Oklahoma area, the last Saturday of every month from 9 to about noon here in our company parking lot, we have just a collection of people coming in, bringing their cars, whether they're show cars, whether they're daily drivers, whether they're hot rods, whatever it happens to be. We all get together, we talk cars, we eat some donuts, we have some coffee, and just kind of a good way to get together and get out and enjoy some of this fresh Oklahoma air. But a lot of good shows going on. I guess, Tim, was it, what show did you just go to last weekend?
Good Guys.
You went to the Good Guys show down in Texas. I guess that was a pretty good event too, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I know he took his little brown Chevy truck down there, the brown and black truck, and that thing is absolutely gorgeous. I'm sure it was right at home at that show circuit. But if you guys get a chance to go to any of the Good Guys shows, I mean, there's some really cool cars there too. And of course, once again, as we scroll through this, it's Bass Wars after Bass Wars after Bass Wars. So yeah, it's kind of exciting and kind of fun. So make sure you figure out where we're going to be. I know we're going to be traveling. I know the first week of April, I will be, in fact, Aaron Malin and I from the training department, we're going to be in Indianapolis for the Knowledge Fest. And I know for a fact that in May, I'm going to be up in Portland, Oregon for the PAC Northwest Audio Expo. So we are finally getting out and about. We are going to come see you guys. So watch these events, and if we're going to be in an area near you, come out and see us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we wouldn't do it if it was boring or if it wasn't worth your time. So make sure you check that stuff out. So let's zip on over to the Kicker YouTube channel. If you guys want to see videos in the past, you want to catch up on some old Kicker Unmasked shows, some reruns, maybe you missed last week, or there's a topic that you're looking to learn a little bit more about that we covered. We've got all the Unmasked Live weeklies recorded so you can go back and see them. And of course, all the other videos as well, uploaded videos. We got videos on new products that are out, telling you about all the features, as well as the technical support videos. So once again, don't forget, if you need information, we're out there. You can reach us, on the internet. You can reach us either on the Kicker Facebook page. You can reach us on the Kicker main web page. And if you have questions, don't forget support@kicker.com. So if you got questions you need written answers to, and if you're not asking them tonight, once again, that's support@kicker.com. We got 4 guys up there that spend all day, every day answering questions. Well, every day during the week. We don't make them work on Saturday and Sunday. But these guys are really knowledgeable, and they're going to help you out. And, if they got a question that even stumps them, we got engineers in this building that they can go to and get all the right answers. Now, some of those engineers, when they explain the answers to you, we need a little explaining on what they're saying, because some of these guys, I'm not sure what language they talk. If they teach them really complicated engineering language, but some of these engineers you want just a little bit of answer, and they give you like this much information, way more than you needed, but we will find out the answers for you. So something else we got that's kind of fun is we have the Kicker Instagram page, and I always like to pull this up and scroll down here. Bill is always posting cool new pictures and cool new installs, and there was one of them I was looking at earlier. Let's see if I can find it here and pull it up. And it was down here a little bit ways farther, and this is a vehicle we actually had in our booth. Actually not in our booth, but actually in the facility. This is a 67 Shelby Mustang recreation that's actually, is it Reaper's brother, I think, that owns this? Yeah, it's Reaper's brother's Mustang. He owns a really, really high-end auto salon where they do, window tinting, they do clear bras on Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but he's built this just absolutely incredible Mustang. He was telling me they've got 400 hours in just putting the quarter panels on this car. It's all decked out with Q-Class gear. It's 5 Q-Class amplifiers. It's got, that picture's actually upside down. That's kind of funny, but it's got the Q-Class L7 10-inch woofers in the back and Q-Class components front and rear. This thing features a 3.9-liter supercharger, and it's got a Dakota digital dash that's absolutely incredible. So here's a fun little car for the website, and once again, that car was red. That's about as red of a car as you can possibly get. But really cool car that we were lucky enough to have in our facility, and that's actually pictures we took in our bay. The car came in to have just a little bit of tweaking and fine work and tuning done, and we had a ball with it, and I really wanted to take it out and drive it, but it probably wouldn't have been a good idea. You know me and liking Mustangs and all. So let's go back over to Facebook, and we can't forget about Kicker Club. Once again, Andy has done a wonderful job with Kicker Club. Get online. You can actually post with your buddies. You can ask questions to the group. I know I'll get on there. Ken will get on there. Joe Hobart, Colin, a bunch of these guys, Tim, Ernie, these guys will answer questions, right from the factory if you've got questions about our gear or if you just have questions about audio gear. Even though it's called the Kicker Club, we talk about everything audio, and this has been a really fun group that Andy has started, and it's like he doesn't have enough to do. So along with that, you've got another fun and exciting show, Living Loud with Andy, and it's live, so Living Loud live with Andy. So this is another great show if you guys get a chance to tune in. I've watched a couple episodes, and once again, it's the same thing we talked about before, where it's just people getting together, talking about audio and having fun and trying to learn something from each other. I mean, we're all in this group together, guys. So make sure you register for the prizes tonight. Once again, when you get onto the kicker.com/umweekly. That's how you register for those prizes. That's going to be the headphones and the t-shirts and the koozie. And don't forget also, if you like the show, hit like and subscribe. Once again, we like to make sure you like it and offer any suggestions, any questions. I don't see any questions up there yet, Jeremy, so apparently you guys know it all for the most part for right now. So let's talk about some consumer questions. So like I say, support@kicker.com. These guys write in questions. We try to read them and answer them. And sometimes they're kind of unusual and kind of bizarre. And there's actually some of the questions I really like because it really kind of makes you think. So the first question is, hi guys, I thought of a question while watching Unmasked tonight, but it doesn't pertain to the show's topic. That's okay. It doesn't have to be about any specific topic. Just reach out to support@kicker.com. He says, I've been occasionally using the audio control S4140 as an RTA mic with the Mobile Tools app. In the settings, they have different weightings for the RTA graph and different noise curve overlays. I've asked Audio Control for better ways to use this and the advantages of each in the car. I didn't get a particularly clear on answer. What do you guys think? Well, once again, there's different ways to measure things. You have A weighting and you have C weighting. C weighting is probably the most common because it replicates your natural curve of your ears. So I generally, when we're doing RTA measurements, we're going to use C weighting. The A weighting is going to be based more on a linear scale, and it's not quite as smooth on the ears when you look at the graph. So the C weighting is where you really want to set your meter, and of course no weightings. There's all different types of settings on those meters. So just make sure you read the manual. If you have any questions, I mean, here again, you got a computer right in front of you. Email to our guys, and if you really get stumped, I mean, just go ahead and type into Google. What is A weighting? What is C weighting? And you guys are going to get some really good information and probably even a lot more information than we can give you. So, second question is a really interesting question. Hey, Kicker, I'm trying to build a box. I like deep bass, but I like tight bass. I was thinking about putting a 15-inch woofer in a box with an 8-inch woofer using the 8-inch for mid-bass. What do you think? Well, here's the problem with that. And once again, there's not enough information for me to tell you exactly which way to go. The big problem we see a lot of times, in fact, you don't see a lot of times, I should say, I've seen it a few times, but it is a big problem. If you put a smaller woofer or smaller speaker in a box with a bigger one, the bigger speaker is going to overpower the other one. It's actually going to, when the speaker pulls in, it's going to push that speaker out. So if you've got, I actually run into this with a guy that cut a set of 4-inch coax speakers into the side of his 12-inch subs because he wanted some rear fill. And they were not in their own separate enclosure. So you turn the bass up just a little bit, and you heard this really loud popping noise, and that was that little 4-inch speaker being pushed beyond its mechanical limit. So if you're going to do something like that, you obviously have to have them in their own individual chambers within the enclosure. Something else I've seen a lot of times, and it's not necessarily wrong, but you don't get the best performance, is if someone wants to make, say, a 10 and a 12-inch woofer in the same box. Is it going to work? Yeah, it's going to work, but I mean, you wouldn't put a 15-inch wheel on one side of your car and a 17-inch on the other one. It will work, but you don't get the best performance. And the speakers are not going to behave the same. And if they're in a common chamber, they're going to react upon each other, and it's really going to kind of muffle, not really muffle the sound, but it's really going to kind of distort the sound and give you a degraded quality output. So what I always recommend is pick one size of speaker for the woofer and one type of enclosure. Don't mix sealed and ported together with the same woofer. If you pick 12s, you want to do ported enclosures, do 12s in a ported enclosure. If you want to do mid-bass, do 6s or 8 inches mid-bass drivers and put them in separate sealed enclosures with separate power with an active crossover. You can control the high pass and the low pass cutoff and make that a band pass. So they're not playing the really low bass, they're not trying to play the mid-range. Next, you'll have, 6, 4, 5-inch mid-range, and then, of course, the tweeters. So don't mix and match sizes of speakers. Don't mix and match brands of speakers. I mean, if you've got brand X and you got a Kicker, pick one or the other, whichever one you like, and make sure they match. So good question, but like I say, probably a lot more information than he needed, but he didn't give me a lot of directions which way to go with that question. Here's the last question we'll go over tonight. It says, good afternoon. Obviously, this was sent in earlier in the day. This is Tom with Lamb Deck in Titusville, Florida. Hey, you doing, Tom? Hope you're watching tonight. Said, I'm one of your dealers. We're working on 2012 Ram Mega Cab. I'm curious if you could tell me the speaker sizes or let me know what your recommendations are for door speakers and amplifiers. This is a 4-door pickup. It's got the 4 large doors, so it's going to have 6x9s in all 4 doors. It's going to have 3.5 inch across the dash. So he's asking, I'm wanting to add 2 each of the 48 TRTP 102s, and that's the downward firing enclosure behind the car seat, the back rear seat. Well, that is definitely an option. That TRTP will work well in that application, but we also have the TCWRT, which is the same design with that reflex subwoofer. It's just more of a slope box, so it's going to fit behind the seat a little bit better. But if you guys know this Mega Cab, there is a ton of room in the back of that Mega Cab. I forgot what year Mega Cab we had. Tim, what year was our Mega Cab? It was an 05, and we had 6 L7 10-inch woofers across the back of that cab, and we still had more than enough airspace. So there is a huge area back there, so you're not limited, you know, to any size speaker. But the TRTPs would work great in that application, and of course the TCWRTs is another great choice. In fact, you can even fit the L7S hatchback 10-inch box that's vented out the side. You've got a ton of room in that. Just make sure you got good power. And can you recommend what amplifiers? Here again, you've got so many speakers in that vehicle, you really need 5 full-range channels to use all the speakers independently. But what I might recommend for a ton of output and very good sound is, of course, the Kicker Key 200.4 with that built-in DSP that's going to smooth out that factory response, and it's going to add its time alignment, its equalization curve, and it's going to adjust all 4 output levels. Feed that into a CXA 360.4. So we're going to take the output, the speaker level output of that key, feed that into the 360, because that 360 will handle a 40 volt input or 400 watts. So you're going to use the key as line driver into the 360, and that's going to provide 65 watts per channel by 4 at 4 ohms. So a ton of power. Run that to your 3.5s in the dash and the 6x9 in the doors, and that's going to be a killer setup. Well, what about the center channel? Well, that key amplifier is going to give you a phantom center channel. It's going to do all the time alignment equalization to make it sound like there's a center channel in that vehicle. Because the center channels in most newer vehicles, I mean, they look great, they sound great, but they're not a true process center channel. It's not like you'd have with a Dolby 5.1 system. So the center channel is, you know, kind of nice, but it's almost a mono speaker, so you really get left on the left of you and left on the right of you from the center. So by using the Key 200.4 and the CXA 360, you're going to get a ton of power, you're going to get that processing, and I'd probably couple that with a CXA 800.1 to drive those 2 TRTPs or TCWRT subwoofers in the back. So great questions, guys, and once again, feel free to write any questions you have. Jeremy, I'm going to look at the board over here. We got anything to post up front? Any good questions? All right, so why aren't Kicker bass radiators more popular in mega bass box and wall builds? You know, we're going to ask somebody else that question here a little bit later, but I will tell you that, you know, they're great. They actually work like a ported box, but they have their limitations. I don't think I've seen a passive radiator bigger than 12 inches without having something custom made, and that's a possibility too. But passive radiators are really designed to give you more output than a sealed enclosure with the performance of a ported enclosure, but the size of a sealed enclosure. And they do have limited power. There's only so much power you can put to a woofer before you're going to overextend the capabilities of the passive radiator. And to get that to play lower, you keep adding weight to the passive radiator. You're going to drop the efficiency down, and it's going to take more power. Well, obviously, in an SPL vehicle, you want the most efficiency possible. So that might be one application why. And I will tell you guys, I'm not the king of SPL. We've got those guys hopefully going to talk to us here after a while. But we always love your questions. And when is the L7X coming out? Bro, it's coming soon. I can't give you an exact date. But I know I've seen some really cool toys in the building lately, and I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with these when they are available. So let's go back to the laptop, if you don't mind, Jeremy. We do another contest or competition here where we ask you guys to post your pictures on Kicker Club or on our Instagram or, you know, our Facebook pages. Post your pictures of your vehicles, and we're going to bring those the pictures up to show you guys. And I'm not sure if I got that file open, but I'm going to go back up here and find it real quick because I got too much going on with my laptop. So today is 3/15. So let's start with a picture from Denny Eddy. So here's a great install, and I don't remember what this vehicle is, but I really like the way you guys are using the multiple layers, the multiple different textures of materials, and the multiple different colors and getting them all blend together. And of course, this vehicle has got a nice air ride system in it as well. The Kicker KXA amplifiers sunk nicely into the quarter panels. This is really a nice build, and it looks like the CVX woofers, the Comp VX woofers. So this is going to be an incredibly powerful build, but just really nice work. I mean, tying the green vinyl in with the pinstripes on the air tank and the air compressors, great work. So appreciate that, Denny Eddy. And then next, we got another picture. I guess we're going to have to make this one bigger. And this is from Mike Enberg, We're going to zoom this up a little bit. And here's another really good example of doing some creative lighting with some creative materials. I really like the look of putting like a wire mesh or some type of screen over the products and doing some backlighting. So there's a couple other pictures of this on the Kicker Club site if you guys want to go look at this, but really a nice clean install. And you know, in an application like this, if you weren't worried about a whole lot of bass output, you could actually make a cover to go over that so you could still throw stuff on top and still get some decent output. But obviously you want to let that sub breathe when you're really pounding on it, so you wouldn't want to cover it up too much. But another great install, and appreciate Mike for sending that to us. So let's see if we can't get it to pull up another one. I know we got more pictures here. So see all photos. That's not where we wanted to go. Don't you love computer errors? Actually, it's operator error at this point. And Tim's back there going, yes, it is, you dummy. So here's another picture we got from Mike Ingberg. I'm going to flip this around. Now, those are not our amplifiers. They're audio control. Once again, you don't have to have all Kicker equipment to be posted in here. But there's a nice, you know, L7Q class subwoofer in there. And look how clean the wiring is. Everything is flush. It almost, you know, looks like it belongs in that vehicle. And it doesn't matter what gear you use. In fact, I was looking through some pictures earlier today that were some very, very, not antiquated, but early ear Kicker product in there. And there were some really great installs. So, you know, great use of materials. You know, the color matches, it looks like it belongs. And something else I like to do, if I'm doing an install, doing, you know, custom work in somebody's trunk, I try to tie the trunk into the interior of the vehicle, use the same type of materials, the same colors, so it doesn't look like a complete separate compartment. It is still within the same vehicle. So those things just make them cosmetically a little nicer. They blend together a little better, and you get better results overall. And you know, if they look better, they've got to sound better, right? Well, we like to think so, and a lot of times it happens that way. So here's a really cool Mustang, and this is from Sound Waves in Tampa, Florida. Here again, I guess, you know, I'm getting kind of called out as the Mustang guy, but that is definitely one green Mustang. But very beautiful build, and they've gone ahead and they painted the grills for the L7s to match the car. Here again, the gray vinyl and the carpet, you're doing dual different materials, but still the same, you know, family of colors to make them look nice. And it looks like, and I don't have all the information, but it almost looks like they're firing the port up through the back window. And this thing, if that's the case, this thing is going to load incredible. By loading the speakers to the ports in the back window, it's going to work kind of like a megaphone. It's going to amplify the output. So great use of space and great use of materials. And if you notice the little detail work, it's not just a flat panel. It's got this nice little, you know, recessed channel through here. It's just little creative things to make it look a little nicer and differentiate, you know, their install from somebody else's. And you can't help but like the little baby Yoda etched into the plexi in the trunk with the green light. So once again, have some fun with this, guys. There's a lot of, you know, different things you can do and a lot of fun. So that being said, make sure you guys post your pictures. We'd like to feature them. And one of these days, we're going to have some of you guys up, you know, live via Zoom or via the links, and we'll have you talk about your systems. So, all right, so back to my notes, because, you know, we're getting old. We want to make sure we don't miss anything. So tonight we got a great show. We're going to talk about box designs and some of the earlier days of competition. And our next guest has been on the show, you know, a couple times before, I think, but, you know, it's always a pleasure. He's always a friend of the family here at Kicker, and we're always delighted when we get Jimmy Ham up on stage. So Jimmy, come on over and join us.
Hey, how's it going, John? Good to see
Thanks
you,
for
man.
coming in.
Absolutely.
I understand you're on vacation.
This is a vacation. I mean, when you get trapped in the shop all the time, this is definitely a vacation.
I understand.
Me, so, yeah.
You know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and you know that saying almost gets worn out.
I love coming up here. It's always good family. Man, y'all got some crazy stuff going on all the time too. It's exciting just to be here all the time.
And even the stuff that, you know, they can't see yet. I mean, there's always something, you know, crazy going on
Definitely.
Here. And I don't know about you, but I love doing this because I would not want to get a real job.
Right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about tonight about, you know, kind of, you know, what has happened in the past, some of the old days of car audio.
Oh,
you know,
man.
It's all been an evolution.
Yeah.
And how many years have you been doing this?
Ooh, probably about 35, 36 now.
Yep.
So that does not make me too young
No,
either.
me either one. I'm going on 44.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think we had car audio back then. We had electronics that made noise in a car. It really wasn't car audio. But
I know.
how long has your store been open?
32 now. So actually almost 33. So.
That's incredible. I mean, you don't see that very often. The same owner, you know, running a store for 32 years that has the involvement that Jimmy does with his.
It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I opened it up, and actually I have both of my kids, young adults now, so it's turning into a third generation store for us.
Man,
so
that's awesome.
nice.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So we're going to talk a little bit about back in the old days.
man.
You know, when I first started here, we had this thing called a kicker competition group,
Right.
and the competition was really big. I understand you had a pretty big part in that back in the early days of car audio.
I got to see a lot of it as a competitor to start with, just kind of on my own, and got to see the orgs that were out there. And that kind of rolled into us starting USAC. So with Ralph Randall and Mark Barmore at the time and all, and then Ralph actually worked for us in a distributorship, and he moved to Richland, and man, USAC took off big. So it's neat to be a part of that and see where it is now.
Yeah.
So.
And the evolution, and just one of the founding fathers. So
Right.
that's really awesome.
Right.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here for a
Okay.
minute. What
Right.
was your first competition system you ever had in a car?
My first one that I would really call a real competition, it was with 8 kicker 15s at the time.
815s. And was
Back
this sound quality?
Yeah, it was absolute sound quality. Actually, it was one of the builds, even back then, you fill the doors up with speakers, so there's 5 1/4 tweeters everywhere. It's all linear power amps at the time, and I mean,
Good old
we
linear power.
Just throw the doors open and light the parking lot up.
That's what
which-
it was for. And I kind of
Yeah.
refer to the vehicles like that, our show vehicles as
Yeah.
bug lights. You turn them on and the people just, they gather.
did.
And of course, then they get zapped. And
the fun part about it, I mean, it was just so rare back then too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, we're still talking about the early mid '80s or something, and it was rare back then. So it
people
was
never
even more
seen
fun,
stuff
I
like
think.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't really connect cars with audio, and then
It made me the official king of the high school back then. So.
Yeah, I remember talking about back in high school. Here again.
Oh, yeah.
Why does I keep going back to
I
Mustangs?
don't
My
know.
first car was a '66 Mustang.
Okay.
My very first system had Sparkomatic 6x9s in the
wow.
back.
Yep.
It had a realistic 4x10 in the dash. It had a Sparkomatic GE50. But why do we still remember those
I
model
don't know.
numbers?
You skip after a few years, you start forgetting, but you remember those
The
first ones.
first ones, yeah, that's probably true. And it had a Ward's Airline under the dash AM
Oh, wow.
an 8-track. An 8-track player.
That was it.
Now, what's really funny is, people thought I was absolutely nuts. I'm like, oh man, you're crazy, But look where I've gotten to. I
That's where it
absolutely
started.
love what I do.
Right.
The opportunities that this company has given me, and
Yep.
the products that we make for dealers like you that allow you to do what you want to do.
Yep.
It's been a whole lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun even in our business. We've been there long enough now, so not only do we have generations, but we have customers with generations. So, they're bringing in their sons and daughters and almost granddaughters and stuff at this point too. So all in the family.
Yeah, and audio really is, multi-generational, and,
Right.
it's so much fun. And I've always said that it doesn't matter, what you're listening to. If it's
Yeah.
on good audio, it sounds good.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've listened to, some of my favorite songs on poor quality audio systems, and he just shut it off.
Music moves you, but yeah.
Yep, and then
Needs
you
some-
listen to something, a genre of music that you don't necessarily listen to, and it's like, hey, that sounds pretty good. You
Yeah.
start picking up on other
Sure.
things, and I remember this has been a long time ago. I was in an event one time, and someone was talking about, I forgot what group, but it was a country song they were going to play, and this guy looked over and said, country music that don't have any bass. Well, he was
Oh, boy.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some pretty good stuff out there.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Yeah.
So I understand that you've driven down here, and of course you're kind of in a different car now. I mean, we talked about the last
yeah.
time you were here, but
Yeah.
how do you think the electric car is going to change the audio market?
And that's kind of what got me interested in the electric vehicle myself, because I mean, I know enough about it. I was curious. I wanted to learn some more, because I mean, one way or the other, it's the future. Whether it's really soon or not that far down the road, it just seems like that's where it's going. And at that point, I mean, we've got to figure out, as a company and as dealers, how do we deal with that? How do we install with it? It's not hard to do simpler things with them right now. It's really not. Some people think, oh, it's electric car, you can't do anything. There's a lot of things you can do with them right now. But as it progresses to that, people are going to want to do bigger and bigger in electric vehicles. So we're figuring that out.
Well, there's always ways, we're always working behind the scenes. You've been in this as long as I have, so
Sure.
you remember when the Ford Taurus came out, when then that oval football radio.
We'll never put a radio in
Yeah,
again.
they talked about you're never going to be able to put a
Yeah.
radio in a car ever again, and
Right.
the kit was out before the car was on the showroom
Yeah,
floors.
yeah.
So,
So people
we
are working
always
on
find
it.
a way, guys. So don't worry about it.
Yep.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. But talking about back then, a lot of things have changed. When you guys did SPL and sound quality, how
Right.
did you judge? I mean, what were some of the more important rules? I mean, without getting into the fine details, because we could spend hours and hours just on that. I mean,
Right,
with those
right.
rule books.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, and the rules haven't changed a lot. It's funny, if you go back and look at some of the original and stuff, you'll see a lot of similarities in it. Maybe the scoring system's changed a little bit. Maybe they give a little more weight in one area or the other. But I mean, even back in the day, we put a lot of emphasis on sound quality, you know, right then, and installation. It seems like, I mean, maybe I'm a little prejudiced about it, but it seemed like we probably judged install a little harder back in the day. You know, we wanted to see everything just right, real pretty, and we scored it. And maybe you don't see that quite as much anymore. But,
yeah, and you're right. I think, you know,
yeah.
a lot of the, you know, I don't want to say anal retentiveness, but I just did at some of the old installs. I mean, I was guilty of that when I was judge. I mean, I remember being in Chicago when I worked for Kenwood, and I was judging gentleman's vehicle, and I downscored him by 1 point because he built these beautiful fiberglass pods on the doors. It was like an 88 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And if anybody remembers the 80s and 90s vehicles, I mean, the Chevy vehicles, they had like 10 different shades of the same color.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything was different. But, you know, I was looking at the door, judge, and these panels look great. And I don't even remember what speakers they were, but it just, the vinyl on that build-out was a different color.
Yeah.
And I actually scored the gentleman, you know, down 1 point, you know, because it didn't match the door. And afterwards, I mean, he came over and he read me the riot act, you know. I specifically died, and he just went, you know, trying to explain to it.
Yeah.
And he's, I specifically dyed those to match
Right.
this part of the dash. And, you know, as a judge, you know, you got to remember, don't always, you know, fault the judges. I mean, we're human too. We have our own
Well,
opinions.
you learned
and
a
our
lot,
ideas.
you know, and that's what we always try to do too. We always, because, you know, we competed before that. We started we went back into competing. We had our own team at Pro Audio Center. And so we get out there, we know what it's like to be on both sides of that, you know, and we always appreciated the judges' comment. I mean, maybe we didn't like it, but we learned from it.
Yeah,
and that's how
and,
we got better.
You know,
so.
back to this Grand Prix, you know, he explained it. I dyed it specifically to match, you know, this part of the dash, but I explained to him, when I look at a door, I look at the door.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
just
the
overall.
door is the door itself,
Yeah.
and then when it didn't match, and, you know, and by gosh, the next show I saw him at, they were re-dyed to match the door.
He tried
but
something.
You know,
I hope you gave him the point.
Yes, well, actually, I wasn't judging that show. I just
okay.
went to spectate.
Nice.
I really did not enjoy being a judge because, you know, guys work really hard on their systems, and I think you kind of alluded to that, you know, from being, you know, really specific, you know, and really, you know,
It's
every detail's got to be
Mm-hmm.
perfect. We've taken a lot of that pressure off, and it's actually a lot more fun. Well, people you don't have to be ashamed of what you, hey, run what you brung.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun too. But when I did judge, I always told them when I went to the event, I said, I will judge install and I will run the RTA. I do not want to judge sound quality because everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've said it before that I've got kind of a different opinion than a lot of people, what I like for, you know, front image. And there is no right or wrong. So I didn't feel like it was fair to me to, you know, impose my ideas, but that's the way I would have done it. So
Sure.
A lot of fun. But I know you've got a vacation you want to enjoy, but I really appreciate you coming down here. But I think you, because of you, we've got our next special guest up tonight.
Well, I like to think I have a little bit of play in that stuff.
I
and that's
think you had a
part of the
lot
reason-
of play in this.
That's kind of why I was excited to be here. It's like, well, it works out. And you said you had steak, so I was coming for steak.
Well, yeah, well.
But when I found out the next guest, Drew Jones, was going to be on the show, he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for several years now and stuff, and met him when he came by the shop. And, man, just been following what this guy's doing. I mean, I may be introducing him to somebody, a lot of you guys know him for sure and all, but this guy's got some awesome things going on, and I'm excited. I ain't going to give you anything away, but I'm excited to see what he's going to be doing with Kicker now, too. So
Could be a lot of fun, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But, yeah, Drew, like I say, it's a really honor to have him. So, Drew, why don't you come on out here? Let's get your butt out here on stage. And, yeah, I said that word. So
what's going on, man? Good to see you. Absolutely.
Welcome. Jump on in and join us here. We've got the... Are we still social distancing now? Kind of here. You know, we're all family. We're all friends.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So tell us what kind of history you guys have together.
Well, like you said, we met at the shop one day. I was coming back from Sundown Audio Show, so it was August 2019, and I was driving through Jackson, and I was like, let me see. Every time I go through a big city, when I have time, I like to look up the local audio store to see what they're doing over there, see if there's anything worth stopping at. And I was looking on Google, saw Pro Audio Center. I was like, oh, check the social media. And it was doing awesome. He's absolutely killing the social media game.
Yep. And you guys need to see their posts. I mean, they are incredible. And it's not just 1 or 2 a month, is it? How many do you do?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's great marketing, but great eye candy, too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I was like, I told my wife was with me. I was like, hey, we're going to stop.
Yeah.
We're going to stop here, go check it out. She said, oh, all right. So we pull in, and First person I see is actually Billy Temple from Bass Wars.
Right.
He was over there. I was like, oh, well, I know Billy. And so that's how me and him met for the first time, and played the Tahoe and hung out for a little bit.
Tried to knock the building down, almost successfully.
I was going to say, I'm
Close, real close. So that's how we met. And then a couple months later, I get a message from him asking me if I wanted to go to a event with Kicker. It was invite only, and I said, well, absolutely, I do. That sounds like a good time.
This guy needs to be involved. Yep.
And so that was the start of it.
Sounds like we got a lot of cool things coming up in the future, and it's proud to welcome you to the family, Drew. And I'm glad you made it up here. And you know, you're not a Kicker convert yet, but we're going to work on you here.
That's not entirely true.
So, you got some Kicker running around?
Oh yeah.
I actually have so my daily driver / tow vehicle, my dually Duramax is it's got the Kicker QS component set in the front.
Nice.
And then Kicker IQ amps in the back.
All right. So now I know you've got taste.
Yep.
So maybe, not just in friends, but in audio too. So that's awesome. But Jimmy, we really appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely.
Why don't you go enjoy your afternoon, or I guess
Absolutely.
it's evening now. Have a good time.
Thank
Come
you, sir.
back and see us again real soon.
As long as you're having steak.
We'll make sure that happens, and we'll not
Good
break
luck with
my
your
heart.
EV. I'm sure you're going to struggle to get back with your short
Absolutely.
range.
It's got a long extension cord.
It's an alternator on the wheel. Recharges the battery.
Yeah, or several alternators. They're going to pick on me with that word because I pronounce it goofy all the time. So, Drew, tell us how you got into this industry, and what you've been doing in the past, where you really got excited and started and got your fingers dirty in audio.
Oh, man, it started 13, 14 years old. And I've always loved music, like cars, so it just kind of worked together. I did the same thing everyone else did, installed the home speakers in the parents' van and tried to do all
The
that.
parents' van. Okay, what was the van? I got to ask.
Astro van. They actually had a pair of them at one point. If I'd have known what I knew now about needing space, I'd have probably tried to keep one. But so it was, started with that when I was 14, 15, playing around, figuring it out, and then just hobby until I was, getting louder and louder. Made friends, got super lucky, made friends with one of the loudest people on the planet at the time. We're talking 14 years ago. Brett Arsenault, one of the first people I've ever seen to do a 160 burp and then play music at that level. This is 14 years ago. That wasn't common.
No, and vehicles were either loud or they sounded good.
Yeah, and his did both. His sounded great and was also incredibly loud.
Yeah, fortunately, one of the gentlemen we've had on the show in the past, Corey Heimel, his van on both sound quality and SPL at events. It did. I forgot on the RTA. You remember we used to score vehicles on the RTA, 0 to 40.
Well, I don't remember.
Well,
but I've heard about it.
So they had a scale that you basically scored sound quality on an RTA, which is real-time analyzer, and you wanted a flat response. And the whole point was to get it close to 40 points as possible. You start out with 40. Anytime you had a little dip or anywhere, you'd actually take away points. But these vehicles, if anyone listened to them, they were awful. No offense. If you had one of those vehicles, and in my lifetime, I've only heard one that scored 40. But the key with it was they were so flat, so sterile. There was no excitement. And I used to pick on, even a couple of our competitors and, friends that are still friends of mine to this day that, would spend tens and $20,000s of dollars on these vehicles, and they wouldn't play any louder than I'm talking right now. But they were absolutely, laser perfect. But, consumers don't necessarily want laser perfect. They want excitement. They want the windows to shake, and they want things to vibrate and rattle. And, it's all about whatever you want. But, and that's why, we talk about, the competition scene has gone away from, the judge, the huge points and absolute, microscopic attention to detail to stuff that's just really fun and loud, and it draws people in. I'm going to ask you something else, and there's another competition that I'm so glad is gone, and I don't even know if you'll even remember it. Do you remember Deathmatch?
I know what a deathmatch is, but
yeah, as a manufacturer, we hated Deathmatch. It's 5 minutes, just play it as loud as you can until everything blew up and died.
Basically.
And, we were, had a big, competition group in the past, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But, it got to the point where, these guys, it was so expensive, and there was this big negative connotation with loud vehicles, all these laws coming out. So Kicker just decided to back off just a little bit with the competitions, but we're realizing that hey, this stuff's coming back around. We're about ready to have a whole lot of fun with it again. So I'm going to ask you a couple other questions talking about that. Talking about big SPL and box signs. And what do you see as one of the for high SPL? What type of system is going to be for to really get the numbers or really get the vehicle moving?
Well, it depends on the overall goal. I mean, if SPL is the goal, it depends on then if you want no wall, and then there's now multiple different versions, not versions of SPL, but there's normal SPL where high frequency doesn't matter, highest number wins. But there's also multiple classes now based around 20 hertz.
Really?
Who's going to be the loudest at 20 hertz?
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Basically. So it depends on which one of those you're going for. If you're going for a no wall, normal SPL, ported enclosures, basically the king. You'll be hard pressed to find a loud no wall vehicle that is anything other than a ported enclosure.
Right.
Whether it be subs forward, port back, subs forward, port up. It depends on the vehicle.
Yeah, it's usually the port's usually on the driver's side, isn't it?
Again, depends on the vehicle and depends on the organization, because different organizations' enclosure builds are completely different from each other. Like DB drag, a loud DB drag enclosure is completely different than a loud USAC enclosure or MECA enclosure.
Right, which basically points to the if you're gonna compete, pick the category.
Yeah, pick what you want to compete in and aim for
the venue that you want to compete in, because they are very specific and they're all after different goals.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, not to interrupt, but I just want to let you guys know we're coming up on 7:20 or 8:20 actually, and our clock's still stuck in daylight savings time, like limbo. But 10 more minutes for you guys to register to win the prizes we're giving away. We'll give those away at 8:45. But yeah, I see so many things, and I'll be honest with you, I was never into the SPL. I not that I didn't like it, I think it was a lot of fun. I just never had the vehicle. I never had the time to focus on that, so I kind of missed out on a lot of that. That's why I asked you a bunch of the questions. That's obviously what you did.
Well, kind of. I did compete for a long time. I never went to any world finals, any world championships like that, because I was also I enjoyed competing. I enjoyed chasing SPL to a point, but if it couldn't play music, it wasn't for me. So all my vehicles have always been able to play music very well. And if you can play music, normally you're generally not going to be able to compete on a high enough level. So I ended up getting out of. I still compete every now and then, but I don't chase it at all.
Right. Well, and you do what you enjoy, which
Exactly.
is the key with all of this. None of this. I mean, this building would not exist, if it wasn't for people that wanted to spend money that they didn't have to spend on car audio.
Speaking of competitions, I had this thought. I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before. We were talking about how long Kicker's been doing speakers and car audio and competitions and stuff like that. And then the thought came to me that Steve Irby has been in car audio since before there were competitions.
1980 was our first car audio component.
And that blew my mind, that Steve Irby predates, like his car audio in fact fascination predates competitions. My brain, it took a minute for me to process that.
Yeah, the man's he's incredible. Did you get to meet Steve today?
So I met him actually in 2019 on our first tour here.
Gotcha, okay.
After World Finals, 2019 in Lawton, we were invited up, me and a couple of my close friends were invited up for a tour. Kip brought us on, so he was showing us around. And Steve actually came on the tour for about an hour and a half.
He's awesome.
Yeah, spent a ton of time with us, and it was great to meet him.
I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to do any of this and wouldn't be doing any of this. So, but I mean, like I said, you seem to, he's in the building every day.
Yeah, I saw him today.
Yeah, I mean, even during COVID, he was here just about every single day. The guy loves to do what he's doing. We asked him, a while ago, when are you going to retire, Steve? He said, why? I love what I do. And that's kind of the name of the game. And, here again, same thing with the competitions. If you love SPL, do your research. And, and let me ask you some more questions.
Yeah,
band pass boxes for SPL.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you look, that was where I was going to go with the no wall versus wall. If you look at basically all of the current, not all, but a majority of the current loudest vehicles, they're a band pass of some sort. One of the loudest vehicles on the planet right now, RP Patel, I might be mispronouncing it, but sound check, giant fourth order, or single reflex band pass.
Band pass.
Single reflex.
That's all right. I'll cut you slack.
Same thing. Big band pass does great. One of the loudest music playing vehicles that I've seen ever, Joe Price, 1215s in a giant fourth order. would do
15.
170 dB on music in a stock cabin.
What music do you play at 170 dB?
It's got to be at 55 hertz. The van did, but
Right.
it was tuned so well it could also play anything. Not at 170, but it'll play everything pretty well.
That's crazy. I mean, that is really loud. I remember back, when we were in the competition scene, the van we had, it was a Greg Welch's van. I mean, it was amazing. It used two of the Solo X18s from the original ones, and Greg never blew a woofer in that vehicle.
Well, that's
he
impressive.
never actually burnt a coil. He shattered cones. I mean, and you talk about high SPL, and what's more important for high SPL? Power, cone area, batteries. I mean, and obviously you got to have all of them, but if you had to pick the most important thing to concentrate on, if you're really shooting for high SPL.
Power.
Lots of power.
Because, I mean, if you look at some of the most efficient people, Chris Munson, Nathan Munson, those guys are, I've seen Chris do 160 dB with 1,600 watts in a single sub in a car.
1,600 watts?
1,600.
Wow.
In a stock class build, so Enclosures in the stock location, CRX, but still. Single sub.
That was the car of choice for SPL.
Yeah, single sub, 1,600 watts. If you look at a lot of loud builds.
And how loud was that?
It did 160 dB with 1,600 watts.
160 with 16 and one sub. And what sub was it? Do you remember?
Sundown Compact Neo.
Nice.
V2, I think. The power just becomes the limiting factor in a bunch of these builds because of high impedance rise at peak. So you run smooth out of power. So if you don't have a ton of it to overcompensate for the amount of rise you have, you're going to be limited on output.
And just real quickly, tell the guys what impedance rise means.
So
Speakers
impedance
aren't
rise
fixed.
Yeah, so the impedance on the voice coil, voice coil resistance, as the voice coil moves up and down inside the magnet, it increases the resistance of the coil. As the power is fed in the coil, as it moves up and down, it increases the resistance that the amplifier sees of the coil, electromagnetism, fancy stuff. So at a vehicle's efficiency peak, you will basically always have the most rise, whether it be 4x, 6x, 10x. So you see you're starting almost 1 ohm. At peak, you could see 4 ohm, 6 ohm, 10 ohm. So if your amplifier only makes 500 watts at 4 ohm, that's how much power you're going to be clamping at peak. That's why you see a bunch of these SPL guys wired into the dirt, 0.25.
Oh, yeah.
0.175 before, because they're combating that rise.
And there's a reason why I was asking that question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, that's for sure.
No, it's fine.
But when it gets to power, and you talk about the power, a lot of people is like, I've got my subs wired at 1 ohm, my amp's stable to 1 ohm, and they go to compete and they're just not hitting the number. Well, at that particular frequency, and of course the box design, the size, the shape, and the design itself is going to change that impedance curve. Because a speaker is going to rise. I actually, way back in the day when I actually had my store back with the Ryan days, I mean, they actually would show the impedance curves of the Enclosures with their tech briefs.
Oh, nice.
And you might have a 4 ohm driver that, at tuning frequency was 36 ohms. And at 36 ohms, you're not getting a lot of power to the amplifier. Now, something else we used to use back in the day, and it may even be before your time, God, I'm really showing my age here. I got to quit doing this, but autoformers.
Who?
Autoformers. Yeah, some of you old guys are going,
Optimus Prime?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
I mean, it was pretty much a transformer, but basically it was just a transformer that had a winding at one impedance on one side, and then it coupled to another impedance to basically change the impedance of a woofer. So you could take a 4 ohm woofer, hook it up to this autoformer, and it was 4 ohms on the side of the woofer, but the other side was a 1 ohm, so the amplifier would actually play 1 ohm to that 4 ohm speaker, give it that power. But they were incredibly inefficient. The impedance curve on those things was stupid ridiculous. But it's all those different tricks. But I think it's really neat, where people are just going out and just tons of power, tons of speakers, and it's just a lot of fun. What about size of speakers? I mean, obviously, cone area. Do you want multiple large woofers or even more smaller diameter woofers?
As minimal woofers as possible to achieve your goal. The fewer back waves or the fewer subs you have to get into phase with the meter and the port, the less hassle you're going to end up having.
So bigger is better in this case.
Sometimes, yes. I'm going to use Chris Munson as an example again because he's
That's fine.
SPL guru. Dude's great. He had a 5K van, not long time ago, but on the way to CES one year. We drove to CES one year from Louisiana we stopped. He generous enough to let us stay at his house that night, and he was showing us some of his vehicles.
Well, I found that all USPL guys, I mean, you're just good, down-to-earth people. You're just there to have fun.
Yeah, so he opened his doors to us like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was great. And the next morning he was showing us.
I don't know if I'd open my door to you at 2 o'clock in the morning without knowing you.
Exactly. Yeah. Big guy to be opening the door. But his van, 218s. That's it.
Really?
218s and a big flat wall shoved all the way to one side. And I was like, why'd you do only 2? And he's explaining, easier to align subs with only 2 subs that's half the effort basically to get everything into alignment. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And it's just the more I looked at other big builds, the loud ones, there's not often very many subs until you get to like the super loud things like RP Patel. I think he's 1212s or 1012s, but those guys they're experts. They know how to do that.
And you talk about a lot of weight too when you start adding with all the. I mean, I remember the van we had in back. The 12-leaf suspension on the thing. I mean, there were 12-ply tires, and there's only 2 of them. And they looked like they were flat with 110 pounds of pressure in them. So you got to make sure all the vehicles beefed up. And once again, guys, we're just about to that cutoff point for registering for the contest. So we're going to go ahead and announce the winners here in about 15 minutes. And God, there were more questions I was going to ask. Oh, tell us about what you were bringing in for us tonight. Your vehicle. He's like, what gear?
Like, what I bring? I decided to bring in my Tahoe from Louisiana. It hadn't been up here before. A lot of people here haven't seen it. So I was like, you know what? Coming up here, I'm gonna drag it on up here.
Well, we appreciate the fact you did it. Ernie, do you have a little bit? There it is. He's got it up on screen now. So this is actually you in the parking lot this afternoon.
Yep. So this is at about 75% volume. We put a brand new sub in it last week. Front left sub. I blew it apart, giving someone a demo in a Walmart parking lot. You'll have that. So put a brand new sub in it last week. On the internet, a lot of people say, oh, break-in's not real. You don't need break-in, this and that. Well, when you're running a lot of power to a sub, you have to break it in, especially whenever you're running multiple subs. So like the other 5 subs can move a little easier. They're going to cool better. The one that's brand new, super stiff, it can't quite cool as well as the other ones. So you have to kind of take it easy while the newer one loosens up a little bit.
Suspension to break in, and we've always recommended that with our old, solo Barrack woofers. Break them in.
Yeah. So if you've been out there, I'll let you hear it tomorrow or anything. You can kind of smell that new sub. You're like, oh, I smell that coil getting warm. Yeah, I can smell the coil getting warm because it's just that one. And tell us real quick what you have for gear in this vehicle. It's 6 Sundown Audio ZV5 15s on 4 Sundown Audio 7500s at 0.33 ohm. That sounds crazy. Well, yep, I'm going to get that experience. Well, along with that, of course, we've got a third guest tonight. I mean, obviously, you see all the stools up here, and I told you we're going to have 3 guests tonight. We want to bring out our own downtown Jeremy Brown. Jeremy, come on out here. Since we're talking competitions, and when I started, we had our kicker competition group. JB, it's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And Jeremy actually was pretty much head of our competition group back in the day, and I will tell you, this guy is still my go-to box designer. I mean, I'll build anything you want, but I don't always know the ports, and you really are the guy that, basically helped us, put the SPL on the map.
Well, I mean, I was able to be here and be involved in it when we were getting big into SPL, so I got thrown into it, going one of those trial by fire deals, but I learned a lot from our competitors. I was fortunate to be involved with the early Gates Bronco build and us getting on the road with that and kind of getting into the SPL scene. It allowed me to learn a lot, so.
Trial by fire. We had some great competitors. We had Marky Dietrich, we had Frank Rougeau, we had, Mark Eldridge, Gary Biggs. I mean, we had in fact, Gary won, was it USAC 2000, what year was that? About 2002 with the Solo X18s in the back of that Regal?
Yeah, don't get me lying. If we're going back a ways there, that was
we got,
right
Ernie,
after
you got
I
any
started.
pictures of the...
But yeah, I know that Gary and Mark both won, and Corey, of course, won USAC finals.
Talk about Corey a little bit earlier.
Corey's
been on the show.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be on the show with Corey a while back. In fact, he's going to come up and join us for USAC finals here in a couple weeks. He's going to meet up with us and spend the weekend with us. So we're really looking forward to that.
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. So
sure, definitely. But yeah, I mean, My involvement in SPL was what I learned from being around really good competitors. I got fortunate to be around really good competitors, and it got me excited about learning more about enclosure design. And you know, the type of enclosure design stuff that I learned then it's not as advanced as what Drew does, and it's different. I mean, it's kind of some of the same principles, but they've taken it to another level, and we're fortunate to be able to work with guys like you.
I'm fortunate to be able to work with guys like you. Like, you know, I've been following your work for a long time without knowing I've been following your work for a long time. You know, all the older kicker stuff, you know, 2002, 2003, all that before I could drive. You know, I've been following all that for a long time. So.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I learned some of the stuff from our SPL guys and was able to apply it to some of the stuff that we recommended every day when I worked in tech support. And we've got guys up there now that, I mean, they're even more advanced than I am, just because they still do it every day, and they're really helpful. And then there's guys like Drew that can help out when they can't. And so, you know, it's a pretty good, well-rounded
crew.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And like I say, you were my go-to guy, and unfortunately, well, you're kind of not my go-to guy anymore because you kind of moved departments. What do you do now for the company?
So I work in R&D. I'm a product specialist in the R&D department.
You know, they call you product specialist when they don't know what else to call you. That's what I was when I worked for Kenwood. They didn't know what to call us.
Sure.
So they're a product specialist.
Yeah, I manage. I mean, the biggest part of my job is managing our specifications. It's a lot of data entry and make sure that the information that's put on our cartons and on our websites is correct and accurate. And if there's a mistake there, it's probably my fault, not anybody else's fault.
It's nice to own it.
Yeah. So I talk to our engineers and measurement techs and gather the information on our new products and make sure that they get out and get published correctly. But I also get to work really closely with Aaron Surratt.
And we had Aaron on just recently.
Sure. I think he was on last week, maybe.
Yep, that was pretty recent.
Yeah, and I get to work with Aaron on prototyping and conceptual pieces. And
you can see all the cool stuff, I mean, from the ground up. And like he said, with the teal smalls and everything, he's the one. So when he lets me know on the L7X, you guys will know. But for right now, we don't have any teal smalls, do we?
Oh, well, probably a little bit further along than everybody thinks. I don't want to get everybody hopped up because I know people are, yeah, I know people are real excited to see this hit the market, and it's coming really soon. So I hope everybody else can hold their horses for a little while longer and you know, trust that we're going to put out a really good product for you.
Well, obviously, you know, with what we have on the counter here, and you guys have seen them on the show, I mean, these are not, you know, 3D printed woofers. I mean, they are real, they are coming, but you're not going to see them till they're exactly right. But, you know, we talk about, you know, the good old days, the competitions past, and like say, you were a huge part of that, and I can't tell you how much I've learned from you and continue to learn and appreciate you coming out. But we're moving on. We're ever learning more and having more fun, which means I'm going to ask for our third and final guest to come out from behind the camera. So, Mr. Tim Smith, come on out and join us. And why don't you guys kind of just do what we talked about a little bit earlier. I don't want to give, you know, anything away or step on anybody's toes, but there's a reason why this group has been assembled. He's speechless.
Yeah.
No, there's no camera in front of me. I have to talk.
We've decided that we need to build a banger. And the first name that anybody I talked to said, you need to talk to Drew Jones. So, called Mr. Drew out. And Ernie, if you want to bring up the rendering, we are building a new, let's see it.
There she is.
That is a 2021 Ford Bronco. And I'm just going to let the image speak for itself.
It's a good looking image.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited. We're in the process. We're getting ready to take it out to Rough Country, and they're going to do some of their accessories. Obviously, the front bumper, rock sliders, some of the lighting, and we're going to throw on big boggers and some Detroit steel wheels.
And you had the hubcaps yesterday. You brought those.
Yep,
that was actually really cool. Greg.
They just freshly came in from the powder coat, and yeah, I'm very excited now that I've actually seen them in person mounted. I'm ready to get this to Tennessee to the guys at Rough Country.
Yep.
Because once this thing gets lifted and gets those wheels and tires on there, I think it's going to be a sight to behold. And then we've got Mr. Drew here, and we're trying to figure out how many of those guys we're going to squirrel away in there.
At least two.
Oh yeah, at least
two.
at
least
like
two.
minimum.
At least two.
Minimum
Yeah,
two.
for sure.
Minimum two.
So any thoughts? Any thoughts you're trying, you're planning, you're kicking through your head,
He's got some measurements that he took today, and I think he's gonna. He said possibly either bring his laptop up tomorrow and we'll do some stuff, or he might even throw a rendering together tonight.
Yeah, very well could.
As excited as he is, and we are, he may stay up all darn night doing it.
So I ran back to the hotel earlier to change clothes and get a little cleaned up. I was looking at my laptop. I'm like, I could probably start that real quick. I was like, no, it's fine. It can wait a couple hours. It's all right.
Yep.
We
Yeah,
know
so
people that
there's
have
gonna-
access to the building. We'll let you in. We'll take all the help we can get.
Yep. Thanks to Bill, I got access to the parking lot last night. That was super helpful. Able to leave that trailer here.
Good old Bill Frog. He's always there for you.
I'm super excited to be a part of the project, and I'm so very appreciative to be invited to be a part of it.
Well, obviously, I'm going to ask the questions because this is even secret to me, and I don't know if you guys can tell me. What are you thinking for, box design, woofer numbers? I mean, any thoughts at all? I mean, obviously, that Bronco's a new platform. Does the size of the vehicle make a big difference on the size of the speakers or the type of enclosure? Or, how does all that play in? Because that's all real foreign to me.
Yeah, so it definitely does, especially with square subs, as I mentioned earlier. So with round subs, you can kind of stagger subs. So like, say you want to do 315s wide. You don't need 45 wide. You can bring them in a little bit because the subs can kind of
Overlap a little bit, yeah.
With square subs, it's not really possible. So we took some measurements, got a kind of rough idea of available space once you factor in the steel cage and a couple other things. I'm thinking 912s.
912s. That's going to be impressive. That is not exactly. It's not as big as the old vehicles. I mean, we were kind of surprised by how small that thing. How are you going to fit 912s in that thing? This is something I have seen. Luckily enough, I'll be able to watch it in the process. So
very carefully.
Yeah. And 912s may not even be that tight of fit, and that could change depending on what style of enclosure we end up going with, versus fourth or sixth order, depending on where we end up with that, will slightly determine if we do more subs or not.
And then obviously we're going to have plenty of power, and this is probably not going to be a daily driver then at that point, is it?
No.
Well, it's going on bogger, so
yeah,
I wouldn't drive it anyway. You can, but so Interco, the company that makes boggers, they're only about an hour and a half from me, so I see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see. They're in Rain, Louisiana, so I see quite a few vehicles on boggers going down the road. That does not seem enjoyable. I don't know if you've ever heard boggers going down the road on the highway.
You can hear them before you see them.
They got the baddest stereo on the planet. You're going to hear the
tire whine and howl
of those boggers coming.
They like to howl on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
The last vehicle that I drove, just as a weird little side story that had really big tires, was actually a quote unquote rock crawler that a guy had, an LT motor in this Jeep, and like 44-inch tires and 15-inch wheel. I mean, it was stupid, but the wheelbase was so short, the wind would blow, and the whole thing. I mean, it was the most dangerous thing to drive, and it was not a lot of fun. So this vehicle is going to be, it's going to be built for serious, output power.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be heavy.
In fact, it's probably going to be so tall, I won't be able to get my short, fat little butt in there. Maybe they
I
did
might
that
have
on
a
purpose.
problem with it.
Yeah. If you have a problem, we're all going to have a problem.
But
Tim.
being shorter, you can fit in a little bit smaller cabin a little easier. That's the problem I have. I designed a bunch of these wall enclosure people, and they all want me to hear it. Some of these guys have some small vehicles. And I'm like, oh, all right, I'll get in your two-door car with the 218s wall. Let me fold into a pretzel real quick.
We'll go up to the museum tomorrow and we'll climb in that Nash.
Oh, that'll be fun.
There you go.
You'll need to call
You
the
need a
pilot
shoehorn to
department.
get him in there. But you'll be surprised once you're in there, it's actually comfortable.
You can't get in at the same time. Me and Fletch have gotten in there and just in the
Is
middle.
that why there's stretch marks on that car?
Yep.
Too funny. Well, once again, I don't know if you guys can even elaborate on this, but I'm going to ask another question. As far as the vehicles and preparing the vehicle itself for, really, 60s, 70s, there's really high numbers. What do you have to think of, just to prepare the vehicle? I mean, with like windshields, body panel, your floors, what do you have to do to make a vehicle survive that absolutely violent
Well, it
power?
It depends on how extreme you're wanting to go. Like, to what point you're willing to modify the vehicle. Like when you get to like my Tahoe or even Stephen Duncan's truck, you want to keep it semi-drivable. You want to keep the interior looking OEM-ish, So there's only so much steel you can really do before you just can't do that anymore. So we're going to determine how far we're going to go with that interior-wise. One of the biggest struggles that I've already discovered with the Bronco is the roof comes off.
I think that was a factory recall, wasn't it?
No,
Was that because of you?
Well, it may be a factory recall when we get done because it might not stay on. We'll just have to see.
And then
That would be cool. I'm pushing for that because I'd like to see that
I
happen.
mean, we saw back in the day the Bronco blow its back window out at Heat Wave that
I
one
actually
year.
got glass in my eye from that one. And
I was actually there watching the event, not even with the company, just there on vacation with some friends at the car show and witnessed that happen.
Yeah, in fact,
So-
you could, if anybody ever saw that on TV, you can see my back to the camera and it blows it. I actually get glass in my eye. But something else we did with that vehicle is we tore about that long of a rip in the quarter panel, in the back of that.
Sure.
And I actually had to beef that up. I think I put like 4 or 6 layers of fiberglass down. Then I got 1-inch box tubing and put that the length of the quarter panels. Put 4 more layers of fiberglass over that. Then we sprayed it with bed liner just to keep those fenders from tearing.
Well, the thing is with this Bronco that we have now, the floor pan and firewall and cage obviously that are in it are steel. The doors are aluminum.
Aluminum's
So
not quite as
now
hard as steel.
yeah.
No, and then, so the most common way that we fix weak vehicles like that, without just doing full extreme, quarter-inch plate steel like the van is, Steven's van, normally we'll weld steel strips in. So we'll pull everything apart, weld in steel strips on the outside skin, on the inside of the outside skin, weld steel strips in, doors, floors, firewall, help strengthen it. I started talking about that. He was like, "Oh, the door's aluminum." It's like, "Oh,
There's a curveball.
uh-oh."
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out. I mean, yeah,
the fun
we'll
is in
figure
the
it out.
trying,
I
too.
didn't even want to throw anything against the wall right now because it might stick. So we'll just go ahead and we'll just figure that out down the road.
We'll see what we can break, and when we break it, we'll fix it and make
Oh,
it
yeah,
better.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Absolutely going to break something, but if you're not breaking it, you're not trying hard enough. So.
Exactly.
That's a good rule to live by.
More questions, obviously, because the whole huge SPL thing is new and interesting to me because I've been doing car audio for so long, but never really been in this facet of it. What about glass? Windshields, and we see vehicles with 3-inch plexi windshields. You see them with stock windows. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Dodge truck back there with the 6L 715s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that window will move 2.5 inches at the mirror, and it hasn't broke yet. I mean, that's what I don't, and I've tried. I've tried to break it.
A lot of the vehicles I've noticed that
Glass does flex.
that, and then different vehicles will obviously flex more just to being the vehicle it is. Like I've never broken a windshield in my Tahoe. It does a 163. It'll do over a 60 at 26 hertz. Like it's loud. Never broken a windshield. Stephen Duncan's truck's 167 dB. It's only broke one windshield because it was already cracked. So, we run into vehicles that just windshields won't break. Not sure why, because it's moving. Like the windshield's moving, the cabin's moving. They're not breaking. But then you run into some vehicles like the Zuzu that was built years ago at Innovative Audio. It broke the windshield on command. Like turned up, break the windshield.
I think the Zuzus didn't have a flatter windshield, so there wasn't as much structural integrity to the glass. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I was looking at the Broncos windshield. The whole A-frame is going to be stronger than a normal. No, A-frame. The whole frame is going to be stronger than a normal vehicle's would because the top comes off, because there's no real top. So the frame around the windshield is going to be strong.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Because that's what's supposed to protect you from a rollover.
exactly.
and
So hopefully we
Bronco,
just keep the OEM glass in there and just leave it be.
Yep.
And it's about time we want to give away our prizes for tonight. So hang on, guys. We're not done with you yet. We've got more coming up with Drew, with Jeremy, and with Tim up here. But we need to give away some prizes to some contest winners. So I'm going to ask Bill Frog or Jeremy to throw up on our screen who is our third place winner for tonight. And thank you guys for registering. Once again, if you didn't win this week, register to win next week. Winner number 3. Who is that, Jeremy? Right at the bottom. Read that. Right there.
Oh, Tony R.
He hasn't done this before.
There's 2 Jeremys in the room, so I'm from North Carolina. You're the winner. Now you're winner number 3.
Yep,
Tony R.
congratulations.
from North Carolina.
Awesome.
Sorry, there's 2 Jeremys in the room. It was confusing. He was talking to both of us apparently.
All right.
Just roll the number.
I was talking to you, but I forgot we got one back there.
Just call
too,
him JW.
All right,
JB.
yeah, that's JB and JW. So, all right, and winner number 2. We're gonna let Tim read this winner. Winner number 2 is going to be
William W. from Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, William. You guys watch for an email from Bill Frog. He'll send you an email when you respond. He's going to want your name, your address, your shirt size, telephone number, and make sure it's not a P.O. box. We can't ship anything to a P.O. box. But that kind of leads us back to the grand prize winner. And Drew, I'm going to let you announce the grand prize winner. And you know what? They're going to hate me because I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to offer something that we hadn't talked about. So I think for the grand prize winner, since you're here, Drew, would you sign their headphones for them?
If they want me to, absolutely.
I think that would be kind of cool. So that was completely unannounced. I don't know where I come up with these ideas, but if you guys want the winner of the grand prize, we're going to have Drew go ahead and autograph those headphones for you. And that's the Cush NCs. And go ahead and tell us who the winner number one is, Drew. Grand prize.
John K. from New York.
All right, John K. from New York. When Bill Frog sends you an email, ask him if or let him know if you want your headphones signed by Drew. I think that'd be kind of cool. You have probably the only set of Cush NCs with Drew's autograph. But thank you guys for registering for the show and hanging out till 8:45 with the giveaway. And we've got more questions to ask. And once again, guys, get ready, ask some questions. And JW will throw those up on the screen for us, and we'll ask the experts up here. But I'm going to keep asking some questions because I'm intrigued by this whole SPL thing. And one of the things I noticed in the video on your Yukon is the track on the window. The window is actually outside of the track. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
So I generally don't do that. Normally I play the windows down because of that. So the window was at one point in the track before that, right there. It isn't.
It started there.
Yeah, it's in. Yeah. It's out.
So I can blow it out the track immediately, just as soon as I want to do it. I try to avoid it as much as I can because it tears the gasket up, and
you can see it's overlapping.
It could break the window at some point. So I generally don't do that, but it's impressive on video. People like to see it, so I have at it.
I think sometimes just the chaos and the mayhem is what people actually really want to see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the more impressive it looks on video, the more people want to see it.
And you mentioned the vehicle before, and there you got a good look of the 615s in there. Just simple, down to the point, just a lot of woofers, a lot of power, and a solid box, right?
Yep. 615s and a single reflex bandpass. It's going to be more sub soon, but six will do for now.
And it's definitely doing one heck of a good job. And I'm looking forward to actually experiencing that tomorrow. Look at Chase. Poor Chase. I'm surprised you didn't blow him across the parking lot.
Chase was loving that.
So whenever I had both doors open playing it, that was actually about 60% volume, just kind of showing, if you build something super loud, say it does a 65, and you want to play all day, you can play all day at a 155 with zero issues because it's so loud. You're playing eighth power, subs aren't getting hot, and you're still maintaining output. So that's one thing I was showing. Just open the doors, play at it was doing a hair trick, and both doors were open.
I mean, I think you could do a hair trick with me. You could move my hair, and I don't have it.
I do beard tricks. So that's how I gauge when I'm trying to trim my beard. If it starts hurting my face, I trim the beard.
Start getting whiplash from the beard.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. I saw Abstract Acoustics asked a question if it was Innovative Audio in Denham Springs, Louisiana. Yes, it was. I was sales there originally, then was manager for a couple of years, and when I was there was when we built that Isuzu. He said he worked at the shop down the street.
Cool.
So I just happened to see it scroll by. I was like, I know him. Well, I don't know him, but I was like, I recognize that.
Well, I think from the looks of that video, Tim, you think you're ever going to get the smile off Chase's face?
Probably not. Probably not. No, he was absolutely digging that.
He was enamored with that.
I mean,
Yeah, he sure was.
I'm impressed with what these systems do. I myself am not somebody who has ever built one to that extreme, so I'm interested in that aspect of it. But if I sit in it for very long, I will show you what I had for lunch. Yeah. And it doesn't take much at all. I was the one who taken the video, and I got in, and I was like, man, I think I'm done.
That was enough for me.
Yeah, one of the other parts of my job up here is I sit in on the listening test whenever we're doing acoustic approvals up here, so I really can't stick my head in there for very long.
You need your ears, and we need your ears.
You got to be able to hear mids and highs tomorrow.
Yes.
So that's one thing a lot of people have been saying for a long time. Gonna hurt my hearing, this and that. Well, you saw all the tweeters I have in there. They're all silk dome. I don't like that harshness because that's what really gets to the hearing.
Yep, that's what hurts.
Yeah,
so,
sure. It's the higher frequencies. Yeah.
Vehicles over at 60 for 4 or 5 years now, and I've been in the loud stereos for a very long time. And my hearing is I feel still great. I have a sound quality vehicle, and I feel like I'm able to tune it and get it sounding great.
As you get older, I'll attest, you start losing some of those high frequencies. It's just going to happen. We got a great question up here. Choke Change asks, any rule of thumb for single versus multiple ports for mega enclosures?
Single's louder.
Single
port's
chamber,
louder. Single port, louder. Loudest there is. Because as you start getting, say, multiple ports, single chamber, you're going to create turbulence inside the enclosure.
and probably resistance on the walls when you get
Yeah,
drag.
so more port area, the more overall surface area of the ports, the more resistance there's going to be. That's why like arrow ports, slot ports, different shape ports, they all change, even though they may be the same port area, length tuning, the shape will determine the total amount of surface area in the port and change how an enclosure sounds.
Yeah, and actually that just brought another question. I mean, for SPL, does it matter if it's a flare port or a hard edge port? I mean, you're not worried about sound quality. You don't care about port noise, so smoother the better for SPL.
The smoother the better, though. If you look in most very efficient or very loud vehicles, the corners are either a perfect 90 or just a very small curve to it. There's no giant curves or anything like that. You know, curves are a real big popular thing right now. They're cosmetically great, but there's really no gain with having that much smoothness in an enclosure from what I've seen and what we've tested. It's like 45s. People are dead set, got to have 45. We've tested with and without 45s in our nitro, and we lose putting 45s in, you know, a few tenths of a dB.
In the corners?
Yeah, we lose a few tenths of a dB at the specific power we test at. I was like, all right, well, maybe it's an airspace thing, so we just put a flat piece of wood on the back wall, that way there's no 45. We didn't lose. The score didn't change at all. I was like, all right, well, it's got to be the 45 causing some type of change with the wave of the sub.
Yeah, and I think you just proved another point that there is no magic bullet in this.
Nope.
I mean, the vehicles are going to all be different. I mean, it's going to be trial and error. I mean, guys, you can come out of the box and do something pretty impressive, not knowing what you're doing, and other people, you do everything right. I've done that with audio, so I did everything right, and it still sounded awful.
That's what I tell people when I design them in enclosure. Like, you may come out killing it, you may love it, you will always be able to find gains in the vehicle once it's built.
Yeah, because I mean, every vehicle is different, and
You could even have the same vehicle move one enclosure from one vehicle to the other vehicle, change nothing else, and one vehicle will be louder than the other one, just because one was made on a Tuesday.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask another question. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but I'm going to anyway. I tend to break some rules. But what is the loudest vehicle in the world? I don't even know. I mean, that's how far out of it I've been.
So Alan Dante has been posting scores from Brazil, I don't think almost 185 maybe?
185.
But he hasn't done it at a show yet, so it's not official. I can't remember the guy who has the official loudest score. Can't remember his name. I feel bad for it. Second, I think right now is RP Patal from Soundcheck with a 184.1, 183.9, up there, somewhere in there.
Wasn't one of the...
Yeah, I watched that run last year, I think, when he did it.
Yeah.
At drag finals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw it on video.
Yeah, same. I wasn't there. I watched it on video as well.
Wasn't one of the really large SPL vehicles running Pioneer woofers?
Yeah, that was Scott Owens' old
Was it
vehicle.
Scott? Yeah, that's
he,
right.
He was one of the first, I think, that did over
180?
180, yeah. I mean, that I know of. That was measured on a sensor mic.
I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about 180 dB, and back we were doing 140s, and we thought we were,
So we actually had that conversation earlier today. Me and my friends will be hanging out, working on stereos or drinking some cold ones, and we'll bring up the fact that, man, there's a 170 dB vehicle right there, mid 60s right there. Like it's become commonplace for you get kind of used to it, which is weird to say. Whereas when I first started Call of Duty, if you did it on 150, you was killing it. That was it.
Well,
Sure.
I think the whole world's going because that's kind of the same with horsepower.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 67, you had a 300 horsepower muscle car. Now you got 4-cylinder Mustangs doing
There's
that.
somebody who commented on there, says Craig Butler is the name of this certified 185.
That's it.
There it is.
Greg Butler. Yep.
Certified one. How do you measure and what type of microphones do you have to use to get?
TermLab.
Yeah, I was on TermLab.
Everything's TermLab.
But the microphone itself, I mean, that's my question. How does it not just completely
It's actually
collapse?
a pressure sensor.
It's like a crystal, or
basically it's a magic crystal, and you just if you whisper at it, you can gain a couple tenths.
It's funny that Craig's probably got one of the higher recorded SPL records. I sponsored him a long time ago in 2004 with the the original Solo X's. He had a bunch of tins that Greg Welch built his van in North Georgia. Craig's from South Georgia, and that was right when he started cutting his teeth a long time ago. We helped him out with some of his first product that he ever ran, which was KX amplifiers and the Solo X tins. But that was back in the day. He moved on to something else, and I think he worked with Dante, Alan Dante, a little bit on that build too. But yeah, known him for a long time.
What's Wyatt got to say? So Wyatt is actually...
Yeah, he's asking you a direct question.
Well, I know Wyatt. He actually just moved away from where we live, moved to Colorado.
Way to go, Wyatt.
Right. He's a great friend. He's been helping me. Actually, he's worked on the Tahoe a bunch, and he's a great guy. So what are 3 key features that help you decide on your box design choices? Total available space, total power, and musical goals. Those 3 will probably determine more about the enclosure, overall shape and layout than the subs will sometimes. Because if somebody wants to play music, that's going to be a whole different type of thing than someone who wants to only focus on 20 hertz. Or the guys who want to play, I get the question every now and then, I want to play 18 hertz or 16 hertz. Or I want to peak at 27. Well, I mean, okay, you're going to lose some overall output to maintain cone control that low, but if that's what you want, buddy, we'll go for it. I'm down to make it happen.
Yeah, hey, the customer is always right. Even if they're wrong, they're right. And that.
Well, sometimes I'll tell them, that's too much. You're not doing that.
You can try to educate them all you want. Like I said, some people just, they want to learn. And
Maybe
there's
in
nothing wrong with
food
that.
service or something, the customer's always right, but no.
So way too much. Going back to alternators. What alternators are you running in the amperage?
I have 3 full billet Brand X 390s. One being internally regulated with the voltage control knob at 15.9, plugged into the truck, keeps the battery light off, super reliable. The other 2 are externally regulated at 16.2. I can turn them on and off with a switch, that way they're not always on. But external regulation, you're going to get more output out of your alternator, it's going to make more power, but it's going to run hotter, it's going to shorten the lifespan of the alt, and it's much more drag on your motor. So like when we were out there playing it, Chase was in the truck, I turned on the alternators and you could hear the motor drop down 400 or 500 RPM before it could correct itself. Just turning the alternators on.
I think we had kind of an issue with Chase's Yukon when we put one of our amplifiers in there was pulling enough voltage that the fuel injectors weren't working right. It was sputtering and coughing. That was testing the quad box that we had. What do you think of that quad box, Drew?
I like it.
It's a lot of fun for someone that just wants a off the shelf drop in and 150s. I mean, you wouldn't even dream of doing something like that 10 years ago.
No, I mean the woofer's technology, the woofer advancements over the last 10 to 15 years is incredible. How far woofers have come, it's great.
A lot of fun. So any more awesome questions? Man, we're right at 9 o'clock. So Mike Rogers says, I have a 2005 Honda Civic Coupe. I'm doing a flat wall with 2 15-inch L5s. Wow, where do you get L5s? That's been a long time ago. With a Wolfram C2400, what would driver's side port or center port be best? Going for SPL, but will be daily driven, so wants SQ.
So first thing, L5s, and so I didn't do this direct testing. This was done by a guy named Kenny in New Orleans a long time ago. He found that L5s were louder than L7s.
They were actually more efficient.
Which was probably, because this is long before power was cheap.
That lighter cone.
That's probably what it was.
And that's actually was the purpose of that driver, was to be more efficient, because the L7s, they weren't power hungry. It was a heavy woofer. It sounded great, but low resonance meant, heavy cone. So that's where the L5s came in. It was lighter cone, so you could get output with less power and still have a square woofer.
And like I said, this is way before lithium was the thing. So power was definitely probably the key there, where he found a gain with L5s. But as far as he says, driver's side port's going to be loudest. It's basically a rule.
Yeah.
It's furthest away from the port, it's going to be loudest. It's not going to sound as good as the center port's going to sound, just because of even loading with the port in the middle of the car. But having had a flat wall driver's side port vehicle, we still have it, but I daily drove it for years. I thought it sounded fine. I was perfectly happy with it. Granted, the passenger side was definitely louder because of the loading on that side, but I was perfectly fine with it. Didn't hurt my feelings any to have a dB difference between the two sides.
I guess more questions I have as we sit here. I mean, I could probably come up with my own questions for days because I really don't know a lot about SPL. When you're measuring, I mean, we talked about the IASCA days and USAC, and the microphone had to be a very specific place. Aren't there different, placements for mics depending on what competition you're running, and what are some of those placements?
So dB drag is the most, the longest, one of the longest running currently. 6 inches, so on the windshield, 12 inches over, 6 inches up off the dash. And then door shut, windows up, legal. That's where most dB drag
And that's
classes
the
are.
difference between legal and non-legal.
Yeah, so it's legal, door shut, windows up, mic in that position. Anything else, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as you open a door, it's outlaw. So every other organization is basically just forward of the B pillar. Mic can go basically anywhere. Mecca does have a headrest class where the microphone is like 24 inches off the windshield, 18 inches off the seat. So that's Mecca's headrest class. But most organizations and classes put the meter wherever you want in the car.
A lot of times USAC outlaw, they'll put it in the kick panel,
Yep.
they'll put it in the passenger side kick panel, open the driver's side door is pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say you got a vehicle that is legal, you open a door. What are you going to expect to happen when you open that door?
Well, if the vehicle, if it's just a normal build,
A lot of times the note goes down and
yeah. So if it's like a normal musical build, your everyday guy just going to compete, have fun. Peak frequency is going to drop a little bit, and then overall output's going to increase because you're basically just creating another order to the enclosure.
Yeah, you're almost making another
yeah.
bandpass.
So it's going to get louder. If the vehicle is designed and built for legal, you open a door, it may get louder, may get quieter, and you may lose some subs.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to load the speakers differently, obviously.
Exactly. Outlaw versus legal enclosures are completely different.
So make sure if you build your vehicle for one class, that build it for and operate it in the way you built it. Because
Yep. So every now and then I'll get people who say they want to compete legal. They want to compete in dB drag legal in their daily musical wall, and they want to sound good. Well, every loud legal vehicle I've ever heard doesn't sound that great because the ports end up being, they need to be massive to avoid standing waves inside the enclosure. There's a lot different than a normal musical enclosure would be.
now, obviously, another interesting question is in the old days we talked about the SPL vehicles being one-note wonders. They were designed to play one note and one note only. Is that still the case in some of these competitions?
Yeah, I mean, in every winning vehicle that's in most SPL classes, they got one frequency, and there's a giant spike in output at that one frequency. You go 2 or 3 frequencies either direction, output goes down a lot.
So how would, say, a guy wants to compete at, how would he decide what frequency? If he got a system built and he wants to know what frequency to compete, how would he determine that?
So the way most people do it, they'll get on the meter, play a sweep. It'll give you a rough estimate of where the loudest point is, and that's kind of where most people will focus on, is where that meter during a sweep says it is. That's generally their power peak. That's not their efficiency peak. That's not where the vehicle really wants to be. So you get 2 peaks in a vehicle: power peak and efficiency peak. Power peak is where it makes the most power. It's a little off efficiency.
When you say makes more power, what do you mean
So
by power?
your rise is generally a little bit lower at that point, so you make more amplifier power. Prime example: Stephen Duncan's truck when it was 615s. Oh, it might have been 7. So his power peak's at 39 hertz. He made like 50,000 watts or something like that at 39 hertz. His efficiency peak,
50,000 watts.
yeah, he has 7 7500s at half ohm.
That's all.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
a
a
whole
lot.
system.
His efficiency peak is 44 hertz, but he only makes like 23,000 watts. But so he does a 167 with 50,000 watts at his power peak. He does a 166.1 with 20,000 watts as efficiency peak. So they're similar, they're close, but way less than half the power. The issue becomes power. At efficiency, his rise is so high, he's only getting 3,000 watts out of a 7,000 watt amp. Run out of power. So for most people, it's going to be do a sweep, find where your loudest. That's kind of where you're going to be. Once you really want to get into it, you get a term lab, or you get a friend with a term lab and a clamp meter. You start testing enclosure changes and vehicle changes versus power and SPL changes. Because you may make a change and gain 0.1, 0.2 dB, but if you're not clamping power at the same time, you're not going to know that I shortened the port an inch. I gained 0.2 dB. You also made 800 more watts. Did you technically get louder? Yes, but no.
But why?
Yeah, like you made
How
more
you got
power. You
louder.
didn't actually get louder. You made more power.
So obviously there's a fair amount of science and trial and error.
And a lot of this, I definitely wasn't born knowing this. A lot of this I learned, like you said, just being around the top level SPL guys. And
that's why I'm starting to hang out with you guys more, because I want to learn more about this.
So once I learned about that stuff, that's whenever we were able to get our my brother's Dodge Nitro. We were able to dial that in a lot. So 415s does a 160 with 6,400 watts. So,
in a Nitro.
Yep, at 37 hertz, which is super low. But testing, we were able to figure that out.
So that actually is, you're right, another question I was thinking of. Say you got a car, you want to do SPL, you build a wall in it. Are you better off to build a vented enclosure or just completely fill the whole wall with woofers? Which do you think would be louder?
Singular, the less subs, normally the easier it is to get loud. But if you want to play music, you're going to need more subs. But if it's SPL only, the fewer the subs, normally the easier it is to line, phases and dial things in. I thought about this. We were talking about it earlier. The phase alignment with multiple subs. I saw this years ago, and I didn't know why I saw it. USAC Finals, 2013 maybe. A guy named Jeff Rowland was there. Team DB driven, DB drive band, had 1212s flat wall. But they were all inset differently in this very thick baffle. So it would start, like the top right one was all the way out and flush. And as you went down towards the bottom left, they got deeper into the wall. And I was like, why is he doing that? Could never figure it out back then, didn't know. As I've learned more and more, he was aligning the phase. He was working on aligning the phase.
He was doing mechanical alignment.
Yeah.
Versus using a DSP and multiple
that
channels.
Or even the individual phase, because if you don't have, you need 12 amps to perfectly align 12 subs, as close as you can get. So
right.
Yeah. So the more subs you have, the more you have to get into weird stuff like that, and just the harder it becomes to phase align things.
And then you got multiple channels, amplifiers, and matching gains. It just multiplies everything. So
we are in for a treat with, I know a lot of people watch and follow me, so they know Stephen Duncan's 1215s van that does one that we've had in the 70s before. And so we had 1215s flat in a 6 order. He had 4 16Ks. We could only do so much phase line. We couldn't really do a whole lot. Well, 16Ks are gone. He's doing 12 6Ks, so 6K per sub. We're going to be able to perfectly phase line the rear row to the other 3 rows. And just from experience, I've seen a dB and a half gain below 35 hertz phase aligning rows of subs. Yeah, and this was years ago with that Rockford truck that we built.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Where are you going to be next if someone wants to come see your vehicle?
If they want to see the Tahoe, probably Slamology.
I think we'll be there, won't we, Tim?
As of right now, we're planning on being there.
I'll be there. You'll be able to find me and Brand X. We all share a booth at that show, so we'll be there. A big 80. I think we're doing an 80-foot booth this year. We're just 60. We're doing an 80-foot this year, and then after that, 2 weeks after that, it's Scraping the Coast in Biloxi.
Yeah, that's a great show too.
Yeah,
that's a hot show.
Yeah.
So last year it was opposite. Slamology, people were literally having heat strokes at Slamology last year. It was hot.
Every time I go to Slam, it rains.
That's what I was going to say. We didn't do this last year.
I might stay home this year.
It was hot. It didn't rain, but it was hot. Man. And then Scraping the Coast last year, low 80s. There was a breeze. Perfect. It was great. But then, so after Slam, I'll be at Scraping the Coast. Me and Jonathan Price from Down for Sound share a booth at that one. We're always in the front left corner of the show, in the grass, on the shade, by the beach.
That's a good spot out there.
Well, Car Audio used to be in the back left parking lot on the asphalt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
redhead to step.
Always hot. Mm-hmm. Well, it's even worse now. They got the audio and it's a whole other thing. But me and Jonathan, we go our own way and do our own thing now. So, but yeah, we'll be there. And then I'm considering going to Aggieland for SQology at the beginning of June. I'm not sure I can squeeze in that many trips in a month. I'm going to go compete at Aggieland with the Duramax.
Quite the road warrior.
It's a lot of windshield time.
You can see a lot of cool country.
Luckily, this trip is my last trip until June, so I can stay at home for a little bit.
We're glad you made it here, that's for sure.
Very glad to be here. Whenever I got the email from Tim, I'm not going to say I had chills and had to get up from my desk for a minute. I was like, ooh. I was like, Brandy, come here.
Well, we were excited you were coming out, and we're still excited. So, JW, we got any more questions that we should answer before the night's over?
I saw Brad Manning said something in there. I didn't see
Brad
what he
always
said.
says something.
But Brad is actually the newest Bass Wars
Anthony
judge.
Aho hasn't been chiming in there.
Yeah.
Where's Aho been?
How do you go about designing for a vehicle cabin frequency, and how has all that changed depending on the enclosure? So if you're going for a musical vehicle,
Sounds like a loaded question.
hey.
Ooh, easy, Dad. Easy, Dad.
Dad jokes.
So if you're going for a musical build, cabin resonance and peak frequency really doesn't matter. I mean, because there's not much you can do with the information. If you want to play 20 hertz, if your cabin peaks at 40, okay. There's really not much you can do with that. The only time that information comes into effect is whenever you're chasing SPL. Even you can't build the enclosure assuming you know what your cabin frequency is, because it can change. If you build a giant wall on a vehicle, you make 2 panels stiffer than they were, cabin resonance is different.
Yep.
Volume's different.
Yep. And then, volume, I could be here all night talking about enclosure stuff.
Hey, I got all night.
Hey,
the good thing about
I don't.
Tim's not behind the camera to tell us everything we're doing wrong and shut us off. So since
you're
he's here,
right.
we got nothing to stop us.
You're right.
We've got me. I'll stop us.
I know, I feel like my hands are tied.
Too funny.
What makes the build windy? Vent velocity and window velocity, basically. The more cone area, the better. That's why you see all these super windy builds. They're like Joel and then Bobby Mansfield, Chris Kyle, stuff like that. It's massive amounts of cone area going through little bitty windows. That's the key.
Yep.
Our Dodge Nitro, which is efficient, it's also incredibly windy for being a flat wall, because the windows on a Dodge Nitro are about the size of that woofer.
Yeah.
They're not very big.
They are little.
So the woofers move this much, and there's that much surface area. The windows are half the size. It's got to go somewhere.
Reminds me of a
Port velocity, basically.
Yep. And which is people who want to play 20 hertz. The port has to be small just to keep number one, the woofers need to load off of a little port. They can't just have a big port. And 2, they want wind. Wind only comes from vent velocity or a ton of cone area. So I get the question every now and then, why is my port so little? You said you want to play 20 hertz and be windy.
Yep.
Off we go.
And no port noise. No, pick one
No,
or the
you're
other.
going to have port noise on port. Oh, that's all the wind is. That's all the 20 hertz and below and wind is. It's just noise. You can't hear 12 hertz. I don't care what they say. You can hear panel flex.
You can feel it.
Well, obviously, we're a little bit over tonight, which is awesome. I mean, so much cool information, and it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you down with us, Drew, and to get Tim out here again and get JB down in the studio. So this was a lot of fun, and I think we probably opened up a can of worms with a whole lot more questions coming and a whole lot more learning we're going to do, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys are going to turn out, because that's going to be pretty exciting.
We're definitely excited about it. And they can ask all the questions they want, save them for later, and I will gladly, I'll fly in for the next couple ones, but I'll gladly come in and spend some more time here.
So, Drew, do you have a website or anywhere people can reach out to you if they got questions or employee services?
Bassahaulic.com for merch and stuff like that. Actually, I didn't think the merch would be as big as it is, but people love it. And
they love that stuff.
The support that I get from the industry as a whole is incredible. Like, I never thought I would have the amount of people behind me and wanting me to do well as I do, and I love it. I feel very, very blessed for it.
Well, I think, I'm not the only one that I think we're going to welcome you to the Kicker family, and thanks for making the trip, and thanks for coming out tonight.
Well, that's the least
I'm
I
sure
can
we
do.
think we're going to have you again on soon.
I hope so. And then if they actually want to reach out to me about enclosure design or questions or anything like that, Bassahaulic Productions on Facebook, Bassahaulic Productions on Instagram, Bassahaulic Productions on YouTube.
Bassahaulic, you know where to find it.
If it's spelled like this, it's me.
Yeah.
If it's spelled the right way, it's not me. It's spelled like this because of Louisiana education. I couldn't spell when I was 15. Well, the point.
Awesome. Drew, thank you. Jeremy, thank you. Tim, thank you again for being out here. Once again, every Tuesday night, 7:30 on our Kicker YouTube and Facebook channels. Make sure you guys remember to register to win things, and don't forget Andy's Kicker Club and Living Loud with Andy. So thanks for all that. Thanks for your support, Andy, and everything you do for us. And thank all you viewers for your support, because without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and let's keep up with this fun, exciting thing we call car audio.